I heard it before I saw her. That little breathy laugh my mother keeps for when she's chosen a side and it isn't mine. Light bounced off the glass front cabinet. The evening smelled like cardamom tea and fabric softener. My suitcase sat open on my bed. Technically not my bed anymore. I had paid rent for 5 straight years, transferred money on the first without fail, fixed the leaky sink, replaced the router when it died. Still, when my sister showed up with 2 kids, 3 duffel bags, and a look that said the world owed her, my room became family space. Be grateful, Mom said, voice sugar-dusted. You're lucky you can help. She glanced at me over her mug as if we were co-conspirators in the same decent life. Behind her, my sister let the boys bounce on my mattress, shoes on, crumbs blooming like confetti over the sheets I'd laundered that morning. Their laughter was pure. Hers was permission. Grateful. I repeated, tasting the word for the first time like a fruit gone bitter. I could feel the years inside me layered. The second job that winter I paid the property tax. The night I left work at midnight and still washed their dishes because Mom said she hadn't had a minute. I'd always been the minute. My sister tossed her hair. We'll only be in here till things settle. You know how it is. As if I'd know how to live without paying my own way. I folded the charcoal blazer I wore to interviews and slid it into the suitcase. Breath in, breath out. My chest burned, but not from running. From staying. Where exactly would I sleep? I asked, more curious than angry. The hallway was a traffic jam of toys and tote bags. The couch sagged beneath a mountain of laundry that did not belong to me. Mom shrugged as if beds were abstract. You're young, she said, handing me a spare blanket like a trophy. You can make do. The boys shouted for a tablet. A juice cup rolled under my dresser. Hope you love being a free babysitter, I said softly because it wasn't a threat, it was a prophecy. Enjoy the slackers. Mom's eyebrows leapt. Don't be cruel. Cruel was the way her laugh kept echoing. I zipped my suitcase. The sound was a clean slice through old cloth. Nobody moved to stop me. Nobody asked where I'd go. The door handle was cool, the kind of cool that makes you feel awake. I opened it. The hallway smelled like dust. On the other side was air. Empty, possible mine. I stepped into it and the laugh finally stopped. The air outside tasted like rain even though the sky held back. My suitcase wheels chattered across the cracked sidewalk. A little drumbeat I could follow. I didn't have a grand plan, just a list on my phone labeled boundaries in all caps. Typed during one of those nights everyone else slept and I hovered between tears and search results. Item 1. Take responsibility for my life out loud. Item 2. Return everything else to its owners. The little studio smelled like paint and possibility. The walls were still damp at the corners and the windows squeaked, but the landlord handed me keys without drama. He liked that I had a folder, pay stubs, references, a credit score carved out of my own tired discipline. You move fast, he said. People drag their feet. Not you. I nodded. Moving fast was a survival tactic, not a compliment. I put my suitcase on the floor and didn't unpack. Instead I sat cross-legged and opened a second folder. Utility accounts. Electric, gas, internet. I'd opened them years ago because my parents' credit was bruised and convenience had a way of becoming a tradition. I scrolled through bills and saw myself in the numbers. Autopay, autopay, autopay. Quiet little sacrifices disguised as routine. So I called. I'm removing my name from service at that address, I told the reps, polite but firm. 30 days notice. I'll pay the current cycle then close. They read scripts about early termination and I read back confirmation emails. I changed the mailing address for final statements to my new place and filed each confirmation into the folder like I was tucking myself into the life I should have had. By midnight the studio felt bigger. I turned off the overhead light and let the street lamp paint a rectangle on the floor. My phone buzzed, 3 messages from Mom, no texts, voice notes. The first started with a sigh. Where are you? It's late. The second was clipped. You should have asked before, changing things like that. The third softened. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I stared at the screen until it grayed out. Item 3. Don't explain the boundary to people who benefit from pretending not to understand it. I ordered a second-hand mattress online. I taped a printed list to my fridge. Food, sleep, water, bills, It felt childish and necessary. Everything I wasn't given I would give myself in bullet points. On my way to bed, just a blanket on the floor for now, I looked at my hands. They were shaking a little. Not from fear. From the weight I had put down. The studio hummed with a sound I couldn't name. Later I did. Mine. Things didn't explode. They unspooled. 3 days. That's how long quiet lasted before crisis tried to borrow it. At 6:02 a.m. a call. The custom ringtone I had set for Mom years ago. A bell from some meditation app we liked when we were trying peace like it was a smoothie flavor. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Your nephews are sick, she said as if their fevers were my appointment. Your sister has an interview. Come. I'm at work by 8, I replied. You'll need to make a plan. Click of the tongue. You're punishing us. No, I said softly, staring at the small sun ray crawling across my floor. I'm letting you feel the thing I've been holding. She hung up before I finished. Fine. I made coffee in a thrift store French press that leaked a little, laughed when the coffee dripped on my bare foot. The studio held my small laugh like a promise. I could hear my upstairs neighbor playing the radio low. Old soul music, horns like warm honey. I washed my mug, dried it, put it on the same spot on the shelf and marveled at the fact that nobody moved it. At lunch, a text from my sister. Babysit tonight? Mom's tired. It was just those 2 words. Mom's tired. As if Mom's tired had ever opened a door for me. I wrote a rate in my available hours and watched the 3 dots vanish. No reply. The autopays blinked out one by one. Internet. Closed on the 30th. Gas. Final meter reading scheduled. Electric. Confirmation number ending in 4431. I took photos of the letters. Not to throw them back later. Just to remember that I had done a hard thing on purpose. On Saturday I went back to the house to pick up the boxes I'd labeled and stacked in the hall. The door stuck the way it always had. The smell was different now, like reheated food and sleep-deprived air. My nephews watched cartoons at biblical volume while my sister scrolled her phone. Grab that laundry, she said, chin tipping toward a hamper like I was still a member of staff. I'm here for my things, I said. That's all. Mom came from the kitchen, face set. You didn't have to cancel the Wi-Fi. I gave notice, I said. It's in your name now. You can call to set it up. The deposit was mine. The refund will be too. A beat. The TV laughed on our behalf. I carried my boxes past a leaning tower of plastic toys and a pile of thrifted jeans that weren't mine. When I reached the door, Mom said my name in a way that used to make me turn around like a leash tug. I didn't stop. The quiet in my studio had taught me the shape of my name when only I was holding it. Outside, the sky finally broke. Rain stitched the world shut and then opened it again. I put my boxes in the trunk and let the rain soak my hair. It felt like rinsing someone else's perfume from my skin. The first bill to bounce at the house wasn't dramatic. It was the streaming bundle. My nephews discovered commercials like a biblical plague and howled. I know this because Mom called, whispering like she was in a library. Can you just, until we figure it out? I figured it out, I said. That's what you're feeling. Silence. Then a new tack. People are talking. She meant the aunties, cousins, the group chat that braided blood and gossip into one long rope. They think you abandoned family. I looked at my studio. A plant I'd rescued from the curb had put out a ridiculous new leaf. The window caught a slice of sunset that looked like it had traveled a long way to be here. Add this to the conversation, I said, and sent a single photo, a table covered in receipts. The rent transfers, 5 years of them labeled. The energy bills. The router purchase. The winter I paid the property tax when Dad's hours got cut. A column of numbers that told a story better than my voice ever had. I captioned it with 2 lines. This was love. Now it's recovery. I didn't send it to the whole family. Just to Mom. But families have their own weather systems, and by morning cousins who never texted me were writing submarine messages. Curious, careful. My favorite aunt sent a string of hearts like heat lamps. My sister broke the quiet. Posting bank statements is low, she wrote, though I hadn't posted anything publicly. We're struggling. You're capable, I typed. Apply for the childcare voucher. Mom can watch the boys in the gap hours. I'll send you the links. I did. I even sent a resume template and a list of places hiring part-time with flexible shifts. I wasn't cruel. Boundaries aren't knives. They're fences that tell you where your garden is. Night tunneled in. I lay on the mattress. My mattress, listening to the upstairs neighbor hum over the radio. Somewhere, a motorcycle coughed and faded. My hands felt steady for the first time since I said the word grateful out loud. I put one last thing in the family chat. Not receipts, not please. Just a calendar screenshot. The day I paid my last bill for the house circled. After this date, contact the account holder, I wrote. No apology. No flair. If this ever happened to you, say same in the comments, I thought, and smiled at my own private audience. I turned off my phone. The dark wasn't empty. It was velvety, like something you could rest your cheek against and be held. In the morning, the plant had a second new leaf. Bring the crib, my sister texted. The boys need it. The crib I bought when the youngest was born because baby showers are Instagram and rent is real. I took a photo of the receipt and replied, I'll drop it off at noon. When I arrived, the house had a new sound paper. Unopened envelopes. A stack on the dining table, heavy enough to anchor a ship. Mom hovered. Your father thinks you're making a point. I'm making a life, I said. They're different things. She watched me assemble the crib in the living room because my old room had become a maze of laundry and plastic bins. The boys tried to climb in before I tightened the last bolt. I knelt to their height. After I'm done, I said, gentle but firm. Boundaries need practice when you haven't had them. They climbed down, blinking, testing new weather. While I worked, I heard the sink drip I had fixed months ago weeping again. The house preserves certain songs. Mom poured tea but didn't hand me a cup. We need you Thursday, she announced. Your sister has orientation. I told her you'd watch the boys. I tightened the last bolt, stood and wiped my palm on my jeans. I have a full day Thursday. If you need childcare, hire me. My rate is on the text I sent. If not me, then someone else. But decide before Wednesday noon. That's when I set my week. Her mouth opened, then closed. The old me would have filled the silence with options. The new me let silence be a mirror. At the door, I gave her a manila envelope. What's this? She asked, wary as if I'd handed her a snake. Passwords, I said. To the accounts I set up. The streaming ones, the grocery delivery, the pharmacy. They're in your name now. Change them. Also, a list of the bills I used to cover and the dates they're due. And, I tapped the last page. A simple budget. It's a starting place. You think we can't count? She snapped. I think you can, I said and meant it. Back at the studio, I opened a new folder. Future. I slipped a pre-approval letter into it. Congratulations, your credit and history qualify you for a small condo if you choose. My hands shook again pleasantly. Not today, maybe not this year, but someday. A home where my laugh wouldn't be currency. At 11:58 a.m. Wednesday, no message about Thursday. At 12:01, a text from Mom. We'll manage. I put on soft music and ate lunch at my tiny table. A plate of sliced peaches bright enough to make me love August. The first bite was summer and sugar and my own mouth saying yes to me. Thursday came and went without a ping. The quiet wasn't absence anymore. It was a switch I had flipped and then learned to live inside. The woman at the furniture store recognized me. Back for the dresser? She asked and I nodded. I had bought it on a layaway plan during a season when even the word plan felt ambitious. 3 drawers solid. My sister had been using it since the first afternoon she moved in. They're your receipts, the woman said, tucking them into the bag like talismans. I scheduled a pickup and arrived at the house with 2 movers and a smile that tried to be neutral. We're here for the dresser and the bookcase, I told Mom. Purchased by me on these dates. Paper is a bomb when people insist memory is unruly. You're stripping us, she said, voice thin. The boys were at daycare. Apparently a spot had opened. Apparently the links I'd sent weren't sent into a pit. I'm taking what I bought, I said. You're free to buy your own. Or not. But my things belong with me. My sister rolled her eyes so hard I could hear the orbit. You're ridiculous. Maybe, I said, but I sleep. We removed the dresser, the bookcase, the lamp shaped like a crescent moon that had been the only soft thing in my old room. The space looked raw after edges exposed. I felt a pang. A stupid human grief for wood and fabric. Then I reminded myself, I am allowed to gather myself without apology. On my way out, I placed a fridge magnet calendar where everyone could see, color-coded blocks labeled rent, utilities, groceries, childcare. Not a taunt. A map. I circled the word team at the bottom. At home, I arranged the dresser by the window. On top, 3 books I'd been meaning to read and an almost empty tin of peppermint balm. My studio looked more like a person lived here and less like an escape pod. That night my phone buzzed with the number of the elementary school. My name was still listed as emergency contact. They were updating files for the new year. "Please remove me," I said quietly. "The children's guardians are their mother and grandparents." The woman on the line sounded kind. "Noted." I ended the call and cried for 5 minutes, not because I wanted to be called, but because I had been the first call for so long that letting it go felt like watching a part of me sit on a porch and wave as I drove away. When I was done, I made tea and imagined the porch version of me going inside to a house that stayed tidy after I cleaned it. She opened the window. He laughed sometimes. Soft. Hers. They picked the diner near the old bus stop where we used to wait for school. Mom texted, "We need to talk," and I said yes because closure isn't a door that opens by itself. The booths were red and sticky in the way that means a million breakfasts had happened here. The server knew my mother by name and brought tea without being asked. "We're drowning," Mom said, not angry now. "Just small. Your sister is on a waiting list for full-time work. The boys keep getting sick. The bills," her voice threaded out. "I didn't realize." "Realizing hurts," I said. "But it's honest pain." My sister slid in late, sunglasses on indoors, a storm dressed as a woman. "You made this worse." "I made it true," I said and slid a folder across the table. The folder had tabs: budget, childcare, chores, expectations. It looked managerial because it was. "Here's a plan." "Your plan." "I wrote it, but it belongs to you." My sister picked at the corner like she might peel the whole thing apart. "You think you're better." "No," I said. "I think I'm done being everyone's plan B." We spent 90 minutes in that booth. Not fighting. Failing forward. The budget was simple math. Income, outgo. The childcare page listed subsidy programs, after-school clubs, mom swaps with neighbors who watched each other's kids for free on Tuesdays if you watched theirs on Fridays. The chores chart had everyone's names on it. Even Dad's. Mom stared at the list like it might bite. "He won't like this." "He doesn't have to like it to do it," I said and sipped my coffee that had gone cold while we rebuilt a family without me as foundation. When the server brought the check, I let it sit. Mom reached for it, then paused. She looked at me, really looked, and I watched the slideshow in her eyes. My first apartment key, my tired face reaching for a sponge, the room full of laundry that wasn't mine. "You used to handle this," she said softly. "The check." "I used to handle everything," I replied. She pulled the check toward her. It was small, but no pair of shoes ever felt more like walking. At the door, my sister stopped me. "I can't promise I'll be you." The words from her sounded like gravel becoming sand. "You don't need to be me," I said. "You need to be responsible." "That's different." On the sidewalk, the wind carried a smell of rain again. "If you want help setting up the calendar, call tonight," I added. "After you put the kids to bed." She nodded without swagger. I walked to the bus stop and sat for a minute on the bench we used to share as teenagers. The past tried to sell me a story. I didn't buy it. I watched the bus pull up, let it leave without me, and took the long way home on purpose. By October, the house had a new rhythm that didn't run through my veins. I knew because Mom started sending photos instead of please. The boys in matching thrifted sweaters at a library story time, my sister holding a paper from a job orientation, a pot of stew labeled with the day it was cooked because the new budget said leftovers would save them $60 a week. Signed up for after school. Mom texted with 3 prayer hands that for once weren't code for rescue us. She added, "Your chart helped." I sent a thumbs up and left it at that. Love can be simple when it stops being a transaction. At my place, the dresser made my room smell faintly like old wood and lemon oil. The plant had turned into a show-off. I'd added a rug with a pattern that reminded me of riverbeds. I bought a second-hand table sturdy enough to hold more than receipts and finally unpacked the charcoal blazer. I wore it to a meeting with a nonprofit that helps first-time homebuyers. The counselor circled numbers and nodded. "You've built something steady," he said. "When you're ready, it will hold." On a Sunday morning, I heard a knock. Mom stood in the hallway holding a Tupperware of the stew. "I was in the neighborhood," she said, which was almost true. I let her in. She looked around the studio and touched nothing. An improvement that told me she had learned where I began. "Your father fixed the sink," she said. "Your sister pays her share. We made a list on the fridge." It's ugly and it works. I smiled. That's how most working things look. She took a breath. I'm sorry, she said. Not for the laugh, not for the years, not for the night she told me to be grateful and handed me a blanket like a prize. Just sorry, in a way that took responsibility without writing a performance on my forgiveness. It was enough. I'm okay, I said. You don't have to be sorry forever. You just have to keep doing the list. We ate stew at my little table. The light fell in a clean square on the floor. She asked about my week and meant it. I told her the plant's name, none yet. And the way my upstairs neighbor always plays vinyl on Fridays so the hall smells like a record store and nostalgia. When she left, she hugged me like we were relatives, not lifelines. At the door she paused. The boys asked if Auntie could come to the park next Saturday. I can, I said. From 10 to noon. After that, it's my laundry and reading day. The old script would have offered the whole afternoon. The new one was 2 hours and joy. Both felt like abundance. At the park, the boys ran until their cheeks glowed. My sister waved from a bench, hair unwashed, eyes bright. Third shift, she said and yawned. It's honest work. It's enough, I said. We watched her kids climb, fall, get up, learn. The world kept turning without me holding it steady. That's the right kind of dizzy. Back home, I opened my future folder and added the latest pay stub. The numbers were the same. I was not. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. We love you. We're grateful. I read it twice, then once more, the word grateful, landing in my body like water finally finding its level instead of a command shouted from a shore I was drowning near. I set the phone down and stood in the center of my room. The quiet wasn't a punishment anymore. It was the sound a house makes when it is finally not confused about who it belongs to.